Hello, everyone. Hello. Happy Valentine's Day. God, I apologize for being late. This is probably one of the latest I've ever been for one of these live streams. I guess it's just the challenge of working this into my life. Yeah, happy Valentine's Day. You like that? When people say that to you, especially if you're face down in the gutter at the time. It's beautiful. Welcome to Honest HR Nitrous. I am Bill, the company's expert, and this is the kind of weekly live stream where we talk about everything related to careers, job search, resumes, interviews, everything to do with that stuff, networking, where you are in your life, your mental health, all that kind of stuff. Job rejection, fake jobs, silly things that we see out there in the real world, and the reality of stuff, not just the theory of how it's supposed to work, but the actual reality. Warts and all, greenness and all, incompetence, rude people, stupidity. That's what we talk about here. We come together and talk stupidity. It's like the meeting of the minds, right? Welcome. Oh, good. SS is here. We're off to a good start. Just kidding, SS. That's okay. You can have a perfectly legitimate name. No fault of your own. Just the way things worked out. So once again, I don't have much of a script. I'm just going off what you guys say in the chat. This is an interactive live stream, so if you're seeing my beautiful fat face right now and the best hair on YouTube, get in the chat. You should see a chat box nearby. If you're a subscriber of my channel, you should be able to get in the chat. Let me know what you're dealing with. Let me know what you're wondering about, what you're struggling with, and what's generally going on, and I will do my best to help you out. That is, after all, the whole point of this. Yeah, this is a bit of a special episode because it is Valentine's Day, at least in the countries where that's recognized. So if that's you, it's an extra day where we get to feel extra self-loathing for no particular purpose whatsoever, really. I think they were trying to sell more, if I can control my mouth, more Hallmark cards, I think at one point. That's the cynical view of this holiday. Anyway. Listen, the title of this episode is called Alone with No Job on Valentine's Day. Very, very uplifting title. But there are some people out there where just because of random chance, your number has been called and it's your turn to go through with this, to experience this. Sometimes you're up in life, sometimes you're down, and it's your turn for the moment to be down. But the good news is that it's temporary and you will be back on your feet sooner than you realize. So that's what we're here to talk about today. Once again, I don't have an agenda. I'm looking for comments for you guys. SS is here. Marta is here. Marta says hi. And I don't want to attempt to pronounce Marta's last name because it's got about 300 syllables. And I'll probably bastardize it and embarrass myself and you and everyone present if I try to take on that name. But thank you for being here. If you have something that you're struggling with or worried about or wondering about, let me know and I'll try and help you out. Listen, I got news for you. If you're watching this right now, and even if you're not watching this right now, you're awesome. You know why I know that? Because you're engaged in self-improvement. And the way that this stuff usually works out is that at times like these, when you're between jobs or things are not really working as well as they could be, right? We tend to have this kind of illusion where we view our entire lives as if we have always and will always be in the state that we're in now. And it's a very pessimistic one. And we tend to feel this tall. We tend to feel like we're no good. We tend to feel that, everything we've done has amounted to nothing. It's come to naught. That's all an illusion. I'm here to tell you that. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just somebody who's been around the farm a few times, and that's how it works out, So take heart. You're going to be fine. I am certainly not the person to talk about relationships. I end up talking about relationships on this channel in the sense of business relationships. Networking and that kind of stuff, how to reach out to people, how to persuade people, how to connect with people, that kind of thing. Fortunately for everyone, I don't do like romance type stuff, but because it's Valentine's Day, I want to say that in my personal opinion, the two are kind of related because they are based on relationships. Whether you have a job, that's all based on relationships. That's all based on connecting with people that are looking to hire. And then once you're connected, then being able to communicate well, being able to persuade someone that they should hire you, that's what it's all about. Now, listen, I'm no kind of authority on romantic type stuff, but it really seems like that's kind of the same thing. It's about connecting with people, right? And then once you've connected with them, you are aware of each other. It's about being able to communicate and persuade, It seems to me like it's all kind of the same stuff, It's all based on connections. So to that end, just to kick off the discussion so people will get in the chat, I see there's 30 people here. Thank you for being here. Let's talk about some of this stuff. First of all, let's get the obvious stuff right off out of the way right off the bat. You're highly employable. Okay, if you could dig a hole and fill it back in, you're highly employable. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. It's not brain rocketry or rocket surgery to be able to, do something that has value, right? If you have skills, if you can do anything, even if it's stacking boxes, you are employable, and there is a need for you, and people are looking for someone with those skills right now. Okay. The reason why you're probably not employed right now is because they're somewhere over here and you're somewhere over here, and there's no connection between you. They're looking in the wrong place. You're looking in the wrong place. It's kind of a shame because you could sort of pass each other in the fog, right? That's really the situation. So this is a good thing. It doesn't mean anything like it feels. A lot of rejection feels like, we're no good. Let's face it, that's what it feels like. It feels like nobody likes us, nobody wants us because we are undesirable. That's what it feels like. Either on a personal level, if it's like a romantic type thing, or on a professional level, if it's like a business or employment kind of thing. That's what it feels like, And then without knowing the other side of the coin, without knowing what's going on with the other party, we tend to conclude that, they've rejected us. They've assessed us, and they've concluded that, we're worthless, right? That's what it feels like. I wouldn't judge you if you felt like that. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. And I think you know it deep down. Wesley is here. Hello to Wesley. Wesley says, thank you, man. Anybody seen a movie called Wayne's World? That reminds me of a character from Wayne's World. I'm an old guy, so that was kind of young and hip for me, right? So there's a dude in Wayne's World that, he's like he's just there. He's like, I guess he's their friend. He's just around. And he kept going, I love you, man. And that was the joke, because they say, no, you don't. And he's like, no, I love you, man. Anyway. So that's what I had in my head when I read that. So thank you for that, Wesley. That's a real blast from the past. Yeah, so we talked about the similarities between employment, finding a job, and romantic relationships, because it's Valentine's Day, right? They're both based on connections between people. And let's face it, if you're an introvert, or worse, you're a technical introvert, like me, we have a disadvantage, because it's not that we can't do that stuff, it's that we hate it. We don't like doing it. It's not our idea of fun. So therefore, we don't do it a lot. And therefore, we don't really learn from experience as much as some other people do, namely extroverts. See, they're no better at this stuff than we are if you're an introvert. I'm going to use the word we to mean you and me, because we're like this. They're no different from us. It's just that they happen to enjoy this kind of activity. That's their idea of a good time. So at the end of the day, whereas we would come home and do something solo to charge the battery, we would like watch TV, go on the computer, play video games, read a book, something like that, some kind of solo activity, right? They would come home after a hard day at work, hard day at the zoo, and they would surround themselves with 50 people, all of a get together, all start jabbering, right? And that's how they recharge the battery. That's what makes them feel good again, right? They go off to work and they sit in a room by themselves all day. That's their idea of living hell. That's an extrovert's idea of living hell, being in a room by themselves all day. Now, for us, that's a slice of heaven, right? It's like no people to annoy you, right? You can get on with some work. You can think a single thought without a bunch of candy-ass people coming and distracting you, right? This is our idea of heaven. We're introverts. Now, the problem is that we don't find jabbering to people fun in itself. We do it, and it can be enjoyable if, with a close circle of people around you, like, your close friends and family, I suppose, if your family doesn't annoy the pants off of you. But we don't do it for fun. So consequently, we tend to not know how to do it very well, and we tend to not be that great at it because we don't practice it. We don't have as much opportunities to practice. So as a result, that can put us into a little bit of a disadvantage when it comes to finding a job or connecting with a significant other for some kind of romantic encounter, if you know what I'm saying. That's kind of our situation. We're going to get into that today. Wesley says, I really liked your video about applying using Google Maps and not applying to ghost jobs. Can you go into that? I can, but the video is good because it gives you a visual. Like I'm actually, if you're looking at the one that I think you are, the one that is linked in the description box of this live stream, it's called How Successful People Get Jobs. I show you, I don't just talk about it, I show you as I do it on the screen. So check out that video if you haven't seen that. But yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is a great tool for connecting to people in a business context, right? It's amazing the stuff you can use LinkedIn for. Most people don't use it for a lot of the things you can use it for and really kick ass. They use it instead to just connect to a few recruiters or to look at jobs. Okay, yeah, I guess you could use it for that, but there's so many things that, it really, really gives you answers to. And the thing that I did in that video is one of them. That's where you connect, you reach out to companies around you, right? The idea was you use Google Maps to find out what companies are around you, what potential employers are all around you, okay? Forget about remote jobs for a second. Just pretend it's like the old days where you had like a physical job that you commuted to, right? So your employer would presumably be within commuting distance of where you live, right? So within 1 hour's drive or whatever, something like that, okay? Although I know in the United States, you guys have some pretty long drives to get to work. That's the first thing I noticed when I went to the US like 25 years ago or whatever. Where I am, people commute like half an hour to work and they regard that as totally unreasonable. In the States, people are commuting like an hour and a half. At least those are the people I was around, and I was shocked. They just regard that as normal. Oh, and they go 1,000,000 miles an hour too on the ride. They get in their company car and then they go 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's a good life. Yeah, so imagine that there's all these employers physically nearby where you live, okay, in your hometown. And they can all employ people like you because they all employ people that have the same skills you have, right? So the most obvious example is that if you have something extremely general like accounting, okay? Every business, every organization, they use an accountant somewhere, right? So it's a very, very general skill, okay? It doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's going to be some accountants in the company, right? So imagine that. Now the question is, let's say you can do, I don't know, basic accounting or something. The question is, are there any employers physically near you? Well, you can figure that out from Google Maps, right? You go to the map, you see where you are on the map of your hometown, right? And then there's a search box, you search for types of business. So you could search for accounting, right? And then what would probably pop up, they pop, all these little markers on the map are accounting companies that just do accounting. But you and I know that, another type of business like a store, like a clothing store, or maybe a manufacturing operation, or some kind of, oil and gas type operation, or, insert any type of company, they also will hire accountants, right? So you can do other searches other than accounting. You could say oil and gas, and, pop, a bunch of businesses will show up on the map near you. And those are organizations that potentially would hire an accountant, right? So the idea is that if you get a whole ton of these, which you can easily do, you can then reach out to them. You know their name, you know where they're located. There's a link right there to their website. And if you then take it a step further, you go on something like LinkedIn and you enter the company name. Okay, you limit it to sort of a search in your hometown, and you enter the company name, and then you do a people search. You can find the individuals inside that company or inside that organization, right? So now you're not just reaching out to a company, you're reaching out to an individual, because you can see, oh, here's the CEO, here's the head of the accounting department, here's the chief financial officer or the chief accounting officer, here's a couple of senior accountants that work there, or controllers, whatever they are, right? So you can then reach out to individuals. Not only can you see like their entire, essentially their resume, but you can also send them a message, or you could send the connection request, or there's other things you can do. So it opens up a whole ton of possibilities of how you can connect with people. Okay, let's see here. So hopefully that makes sense. Go check out that video that's linked below. And if you want to go deeper into that topic, check out that course, because that's where I put all my knowledge and all my learning and all my recommendations for job seekers, including all this kind of stuff. Okay, there's several, like basically networking for introverts, where you use social networking to like set everything up, and then when you do interact with the company physically, like you go down and meet them, which you have to do at some point for them to give you a job, it's in the context of they've invited you in, they know exactly who you are, they want to talk to you, right? So it doesn't feel like a job interview where, you almost feel like you're annoying them sometimes, right? This feels like a referral. They've reached out to you and they say, come on down. We'd like to talk to you. There may be an opportunity for us to work together, right? So you show up and you're going to meet a specific person, and they welcome you in. They're like, hey, it's good to meet you. Come on in. Let's talk. So what's going on? And it's a completely different dynamic. It feels completely different than the world of recruiters and job interviews, that a lot of people would deal with at the beginning of their career. Okay, I got to keep up with the chat. See, that's why I can't get too far into this stuff in the live streams. I can answer questions, but I can't just go on a rant for like 15 minutes, which is probably a good thing. Probably a good thing. That would be a bit hard to take. Okay, where do they leave off? Regis says, "Hi, Bill. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing fine. I'm a little late today, but that's just the magic of having to graft YouTube onto my my life." SS says, "I have a particularly awkward question about my resume. Does it involve hair where there was no hair? That kind of thing. It's about my volunteer experience since I quit my government job in December 24. Okay, that's different. That's a different thing. Okay, so here we go. You continue. "I was elevated to the role of none living in the world and told to work in the world, and tried listing this role as volunteer brand ambassador for monastic vocations in my past region." Okay, so this is like a clergy type situation. Okay. "So far, I've been turned down for all jobs I could do, and wonder if A, write a cover letter saying I actually have to work in the world, or B, remove this position from the resume. The only reason I included the position was to fill the job gap that started in December." Okay, now listen, I don't understand all the details of this world and the requirements and all this kind of thing, okay? Particularly awkward question, volunteer experience, quit government job, elevated to the role of none. See, I don't understand the whole like living in the world thing. Like you're operating where you live and work outside of the organization. Like, is that the church or something like that? Is that what we're talking about? Okay. So the problem as I see it is you don't know what their expectations are. You don't know if something is hurting you that you have on your resume. You're making a claim or saying a thing and you're not sure if that's giving them some red flags. Listen, there's a couple of things you can do, okay? Normally, when we encounter things that we don't understand in the real world about how stuff works, that is a big deal to us, it matters, okay? The thing that I recommend people do, the perfect tool to solve that, is an informational interview, okay? So that's where you sit down with somebody. If you don't know, an informational interview is where you sit down with someone that you don't know, kind of like a job interview where you go and have a meeting with somebody, right? But an informational interview has absolutely nothing to do with a job, okay? There's no question of like them hiring and they're seeing if they would hire you. That's not what this is about at all, okay? In fact, if you go to an informational interview and you're thinking, are you going to hire me? And they're thinking, is this person looking for a job? It kind of kills it, okay? The purpose of an informational interview is to get information, right? So it's where you sit down with someone who knows something that you would like to know, okay? So let's pretend that you were a nun, I don't know, you're female, you're in the church, and you don't know how something works in the church. You don't know if you should do this or that, right? Wouldn't it be useful to sit down with someone who knows that? Maybe someone who's like, what's like a high up female executive in the church, like an abbess, and like something like that, like someone that runs an entire division of the church, but they would know all the ins and outs. They would be able to give you some real helpful advice because they know how everything works in this world, right? Wouldn't it be great if you could sit down with someone like that for an hour, right? And just get their opinion on, the stuff you're wondering about, get them to explain how everything works, get them to advise you, explain why they're recommending certain things, what's the mechanism behind it, right? Give you some pointers, give you some recommendations. Here, you should go talk to this person in this department of this organization. They can help you. They're looking for someone who can do this. Go there. They'll be able to explain all that to you. That's an informational interview, okay? So if you're wondering, like, okay, I want to get on in this organization, but I don't understand what you guys are looking for, or if this is a red flag, or, it isn't a red flag, or I'm doing something wrong, or people don't say this out loud, but what they really want is this, right? If you're wondering that stuff, it would be great if you could sit down with someone who knows. And for business type stuff, I would recommend you sit down with an executive. Okay, so if it was a business type thing you're wondering, let's say you're new to an industry, you don't know how it works, you don't know what the career paths are, you don't know what traits they look for or background they look for when they promote people or hire people. Wouldn't it be great if you learned all that? Well, you could sit down with someone who runs a division of a company in that industry, right? I've done this many times, and you pick their brain. You say, "I'd love to get your expert opinion on this industry," and and then you ask them. You could ask them about them. You could ask them about how things are generally done and why, things like this. And all you have to do is ask questions. You don't have to really do anything else. Just be polite, be interested, and ask them questions that are appropriate, that they know, that they could answer, right? And so I would look into getting an informational interview, because although this sounds like work and I got to learn things, it really isn't that much work, and it really isn't that much to learn. And the benefits of this are incredible, because anything you've ever wondered about how something works. How do I get that job? You know, what are the things that people are really looking for in this world that they tend to promote and value? Even stuff that people don't usually say out loud, right? Let's go right to the source, right to the people who know this stuff and make the decisions and can help you, right? Learn how to do informational interviews. That way, if ever you encounter any big questions like this in the future, you know exactly what to do to get answers. And it might take you a month to be able to sit down with someone that really knows and get that meeting and get that information, but you'll be able to find out anything, right? So that's what I recommend. So look, go do your own research, go learn about informational interviews, how you get them. Don't just listen to HR people. Like, this exists out in industry, in every industry. This is what people at the top kind of do. It's not that you have to be at the top, far from it. It's just that they're more tuned into this stuff than people at the bottom. You know, I have it in my course if you want to go that route, right? But that's how you find out. And then any kind of very specific question, stuff that I can't answer, stuff that nobody else can answer unless they're in that world with you at the top, you can get answers to. And as a fringe benefit, as you are doing this, you rub people the right way. They see that you're interested. They see that you're tuned in. They see that, you know, you've got what it takes. You have initiative, and they now know you. And you can also use those people going forward. If you ever have a question, you can pick up the phone and ask them. Pretty useful. Okay, so check that out. Informational interviews, okay? You do them with people higher up. And they're happy to help because it's very flattering when somebody comes to you and says, you know, I'd love to get your expert opinion. Would I be able to sit down for half an hour with you, just ask you about this industry? You know, people are very flattered by that. So hopefully that makes sense, SS. I'm not too sure about your exact situation, but hopefully that helps. Henrik says, love your video. So good. Thank you, Henrik. That's very kind of you to say, and I'm glad that they're useful. I thought that was said AI for a second. I'm sure you've never gotten that before. IA says, I'm incredibly grateful to you because I was able to secure my last job upon using your advice on interviewing. That was 4.5 years ago. Wow. You go right back to the good old days. I'm in the same place because the IT GovCon service period ends. I'm not sure what that is, but fair enough. Well, I guess you're back for another round. Don't worry, IA. Not too much has really changed. It's the same stuff, just a different day. Same rules apply. There's very minor kind of updates, like you know, we now have access to AI to like do hiring and stuff like that. I mean, it's a difference of details. It's not really any kind of fundamental difference, but basically the same idea all over again. So best of luck. How do you say that? DevSecProd, device security production. I don't know. How should independent contractor work be displayed along with my full-time role? No idea. What are we talking about? What's your goal? Like who is it going to? What context are we talking about? Like, is this on LinkedIn? Is this on your resume? Is this when reaching out to people in an email? Give me some information. Wesley says, okay, thank you. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. There's, like, you see that? That's why I put it in the course, like all that sort of connection, networking for introverts, because you cannot explain it in 5 minutes. Like, you just can't. There's so many aspects to it, and they all fit together, right? If you try and dumb it down beyond a certain point and summarize and simplify, it becomes useless. So I had to put that in the course. Even if I made an hour-long video, you still wouldn't be able to just watch the video and then go out and, like, you know, do everything right and get a job and get all kinds of opportunities. You know, it takes people years it took me years to learn this stuff. And you can condense it right down into the principles and then just go out and apply them. But you can't explain all the principles in their entirety, like to say a university student. You can't do that in like an hour, so I had to put it in the course. Where was I here? The Perfect Network Engineer says, "Hello, sir. Suvojit this side. It's always a pleasure to watch you and learning and grow at the same time. May I will have a good job soon. Your encouragement can help me." Yes. Listen, look, like I kind of said before, if you're between jobs, it really feels bad. It feels bad on several levels all at once, and we get an overly pessimistic view of ourselves and of the world when we're in that situation. Everything looks bleak. We got black clouds over us. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you just gotta, first of all, it can very easily come to a point for a lot of people where you just gotta take care of yourself first. You gotta take care of your mental health. Go and force yourself to do something that you enjoy. Watch a TV show you like, or have some good food, or, put on a sweater and feel warm. I know it sounds silly, but everyone, or a lot of people, certainly get to the point where it's causing health issues. You know what I'm saying? Mental health spreads to physical health, and you know what I mean? Sometimes you just gotta stop and take care of yourself, even if it's just for a couple hours. Just do something to help you on a physical, biological level. You know what I mean? And then on top of it, you then have things like depression and stuff it's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. You might feel like you're no good. You might feel very negative about yourself and about, prospects for the future. It's an illusion. It always is, The reality is a lot rosier than that. You are highly employable. There's people out there that are looking to hire someone with your skills. You're just not connecting to them. They're over there, you're over here, you're not seeing each other. It's a matter of connecting. One tool, by the way, I know I hate reducing things down to little, cliches or little, kind of sayings and stuff, but fish where the fish are. Go to where they're looking, go to where a lot of people need your skills. What I mean by that is, I've had questions from people saying, I applied for a job to this company and they turned me down. They said, I'm sorry, we're not going to interview, and then they come back and then they ask me and they say, well, should I apply to them again to another job that they just posted? Or should I apply to the same job that they just reposted from 2 months ago? And my thing to them is look, yes, you could apply if you really wanted to, but quite frankly, what are you doing? These people already rejected you once. Chances are they will not look upon you favorably now after having first rejected you. Go somewhere where they're actually, the odds are more in your favor. Go to a new place, for a start. If you're just applying to internet jobs, at least go to a different place, Don't just stay in this, looking in this place where there's no demand, You know what I mean? A lot of people have skills where, you have stuff from a couple of different industries. You could go to industry A or you could go to industry B. Maybe you've worked in both of them before, You might have more experience in industry A than industry B, but you've worked in both. You could get a job in both. Maybe industry A is not hiring right now. So even though you're trying and you're applying for jobs in industry A, and it's not going anywhere fast, but you haven't tried applying in industry B, maybe try industry B, you know what I mean? Spread a wide net. Look at where, the employment, some people, what they do is they look at economic data and they look at okay, this industry is booming right now, whereas this one is in a decline. It's in a bust cycle. So, apply over here, you know? You never know what's out there. And we are usually ignorant of all the possibilities out there, all the different places where you could work. I say that because I myself, I've worked in several places where, like, until I got a job there, I never heard of them. I never even knew of their existence. It's not like you have this master plan where you want to work there, so you just apply there and away you go. It's like, no, you see a job posting, it's this thing you don't understand, you apply for it. Next thing you know, they say yes, and you're working there, and there's this like huge booming industry right under your nose that of which you were previously ignorant, you know? There's a lot of things out there. That's why that Google Maps thing really helps. You know what? Let me just see, because somebody asked early in the chat, let me just see for the sheer hell of it. Let's just see if I can demonstrate that to you guys, just so we're all on the same page, okay? I'd like to do an incognito window, maybe. It's probably the way to do this. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so I am in the great city of Winnipeg, Canada, right? The absolute bright center of the entire universe. Don't believe the rumors that it might be somewhere else. They're all trying to mislead you, right? Now, here's what you do. You enter in the name of your hometown. So if you live in Boise, Idaho, or you live in Tegucigalpa, right? I think that's the capital of, is it Honduras? Hondurans, Tegucigalpa, right? They should make a movie called Weekend in Tegucigalpa, starring Sean Penn. It would be really good. Okay, so type in the name of your hometown, okay, in this little search box here, and then go to Maps. So you should be staring at like a big map of your city, okay? So something like this, right? Okay. Now it doesn't show my actual location because I think I turned that off. But you know, you would see like a little marker or whatever for you, right? Now, okay. The great thing about this is that if you type something in a search box here, okay, it's going to find businesses and organizations that tie into that. Okay, so let's pretend that I lived in the bright center of Winnipeg, right by that Wendy's right here. Okay, let's pretend I'm going to center this. See, that little sign means good eating, right? So they see someone of my carriage approaching them and they think, wow, business is good. So let's pretend this is where I live, okay? So what are my skills? Let's say, let's start with the obvious stuff. If I have a degree in engineering, okay, I can type in engineering. Okay, like that would be the most obvious thing, okay? So bam, you see you've got a few of these little things popping up on the map. So I'll maybe just see if I can make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see. So you've got a few of these things popping up. Now, if I mouse over them, these are engineering companies. So Southman Engineering, looks like an empty field. Accutech Engineering, here we go. So if I click any one of these, right, I get the vital statistics. I see what it looks like. I see that it's near me. Here's their phone number. Here's a link to their website. Okay. Now, if you just stopped here, okay, like if you just stopped here, you didn't go any further, this would be enough for you to do a job search campaign. You could go to all these companies' websites. You could look at the career section, see if they're hiring, right? I suppose you could call their phone number and say, "Oh, are you guys hiring? Could you give me a job?" You know, like already, it's not very sophisticated, but like, you know, this would be a way to find people that could hire you. If I have an engineering degree and I have found companies that are engineering companies that are right next to me, right? Like, see, this thing, I'm just going to push this back. So Accutech Engineering is right here. Now, let's pretend what did we say? I live right here. Okay. So like, that's what, you know, maybe 5 blocks away, something like that, you know, something of that nature. You could easily find out with Google Maps, right? But just within like this, you get some place. Now, if I move over here, this is where I'm located for the sake of argument here. Now, I have to press this button here again, search this area. Okay, like it gets in my way, but bam. So like I'm located right here. Now look what else it's found. Okay, what's this? Smart Scanning Engineering Consultant Company. Okay, because this is so zoomed in, it's getting in my way. But you see Gateway Mechanical Services, Simmons Custom Machine. So okay, engineering in the sense that it's a machine shop. Okay, things like this. Okay, now you get the point, right? Each of these organizations, that's a potential employer for someone who has an engineering degree. Okay, maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but it is possible to stumble upon a company that is looking to hire an engineer type person right now. Okay, maybe it's conceivable that like one of these companies right now is looking for an engineering type of person, right? So if I showed up there and said like, hello, I'm a fully qualified engineer or whatever, I'd love to work for you. I know you guys do this work. There's a chance that I could connect with somebody looking to hire me, right? Okay, but it's a bit of a stretch. Now, if we go back, how do we get here we go, get this back here. So we've got that little search box here. Now, we don't have to say engineering. What other companies could hire an engineer, right? When I first started my first career job, I worked in the railroad. Like, it had nothing to do with engineering. You deal with big mechanical equipment like locomotives, but other than that, it had no direct link to engineering, right? So what might be similar to engineering that isn't exactly engineering, we could say, like what companies, let's say, how about design? Like that's not even that much of a stretch. DESIGN, design. Okay. Now, if I type in design, okay, and I zoom back in to where I was located, where was that? That's out in the beautiful, rundown east end of Winnipeg, where only good things happen. We were right here. Here was that Wendy's. Oh, you're not even seeing it. Whoops. Here we go. Okay, so I typed in design here, okay? Now, we're zoomed right in. This is only like a few blocks, right? This is 1 inch. That's 500 meters between my mouse and this Wendy's. So if I say search this area, and I've typed in design, what do I get? Okay, I've got some kind of fashion designer. I've got somebody's house that says cable company, car repair and maintenance center, corporate office of custom designs. Okay, now, in all fairness, this is like a residential area, okay, because I'm zoomed right into like where I said I'm located, right here. Down here, you've got Airwolf Media Capture Services, Sarah Sue Designs, a clothing store. So, I mean, if you zoomed out, okay, and then we type this box here, search this area again, it's coming up with a lot of stuff. Like you have to go to different parts of the city to find, more of the design stuff. But let's say we went to downtown and zoomed in and then said, search this area. Okay. Bounce design, 2-degree interior design, landscape interior design. So so we've looked at so far, hopefully you see where this is going. We've looked at engineering and we've looked at design. Who else could hire an engineer? We haven't even scratched the surface of like technician type, situations where they're doing electrical work, mechanical work, civil work, construction industry. There's so many things. There's so many queries you could enter into this box here. Okay, like if I wrote technician, I mean, I'm not even really thinking about this. Just the word technician. Like, bam, you got data recovery, you got auto repair, you got lube services, garages, auto diagnostics. If you were an engineer looking for work, like, obviously not every single data point looks promising, but a lot of them, it looks like it could be a maybe, right? So you could easily make, say, a list of 100 companies or organizations that are near you within all we've looked at so far is like literally within a 10-minute drive of that central location, that Wendy's, right? And you're getting certainly 100 organizations, easy. Now, within those organizations, you could go on LinkedIn, you could type in, like I said, you would do a people search confined to your hometown, and then you search for that company. right? So if you're interested in, say this, okay, tech fix data recovery. Okay, so I click this. Here's their address, here's their website, here's their phone number. So I take this, I copy that, Control C, and then I go to LinkedIn, I do a people search, I type in this, I limit it to my hometown, Winnipeg, and then I look up, like it's a people search, so the results are going to be individuals. So you might get the owner, the CEO, the general manager, maybe a couple of technicians, something like that. And then you can say, okay, I'm going to reach out to the owner. Seems like a smaller company, maybe 30 people. I'm going to reach out to the owner and I'm going to say, hello, I'm here. I'm a fully qualified engineer, electrical engineer. I can do this for you. I can solve this problem. If ever you're looking, let me know. I'd love to work for you. Something like that. That would be like the most simplest, probably the simplest possible networking type based job search I could do, right? So, I mean, obviously that gives you a lot of leads to follow, right? So this is the kind of thing I talk about in that course, by the way. So there's a lot to it. Who do you reach out to? What do you say? How, like what's reasonable, what isn't? What's the protocol? We still haven't gotten into any of that. So there's a lot to this. But someone requested that I talk more about it. That's kind of what I have to say about it. Where do we leave off here? Network engineer, yes. Okay. We did that. GovCon means government contracting. Okay. Like you mentioned there. ND says, do you recommend third-party firms which offer one or one-on-one coaching to help you find targeted jobs? It's pretty costly. No, I don't. Hopefully, like the demonstration I've just done, that can hopefully make you understand why I don't think you need someone to help you find jobs. If you know what to do, you shouldn't need anyone's help in finding opportunities or people that, would hire you. Then, of course, this requires an explanation of like posted jobs versus hidden jobs. What I just showed you, this is mainly for accessing hidden jobs. Jobs that are there, they're hiring, but they haven't posted it publicly. Right? That requires another explanation. Why don't they post it publicly? Well, the big reason is because they don't need to. Because they don't have any difficulty in finding people that want that job and are qualified for that job. They're very desirable jobs. And it's something where getting 1,000 resumes from strangers is not really a big help. You know what I mean? 80% of jobs that are out there are hidden. All the posted jobs you're seeing, that's something like 20% of all the jobs that are out there. The other 80 are hidden. This is how you access them. It's activities like this that help you access them. As I smack my mic around, you make that microphone your bitch. Pardon my French. So yeah, if it's pretty costly and they're just sort of like finding opportunities for you, unless there's some special thing where, special mitigating circumstances, I would not recommend that. Saboana, who is a member, you need to issue cards, right? Let's pretend I had a membership card for like the company's experts YouTube channel. You could show your card, right? It says, if I left an interview feeling mentally drained, could that still be a sign of a good workplace? It can, yeah. I had other interviews where I didn't feel that. They want me to do the second round as well. Should I go? Of course. They want you to go down for a second round interview. Why would you not? The only reason I wouldn't go is if they were so rude or they were so unprofessional, like you had a really hard time there and it really, really, really didn't look promising. You know what I mean? Then I suppose I wouldn't judge you if you didn't go. Like if you went down there and somebody like snapped and lost their temper at you and called you all these insults, then like I could understand not going down there. But if you like barring that, I would go. Why would you not? A few years ago, like 20 plus years ago now, I guess, I interviewed for a job that I eventually got. And I can't remember. At one point I talked to the owner of the company, but before then I interviewed with like some of the managers. So the first interview or whatever it was with the managers, that went really well. They were very welcoming, very friendly. You know, it was like a panel interview type situation, and that went well. Then I had to go and talk to the owner on a separate occasion. So I don't know if that was a second interview or that was something else like an offer, but then I met the owner, and the owner grilled me. And years later, speaking to other employees, they said they had the same experience. When they met the owner one-on-one, who's actually a pretty nice guy, they were grilled. The guy put everyone through the ringer in like job interviews or whatever it was. You know, he asked like pretty tough, awkward questions. You know, and I kind of left thinking, first of all, I didn't enjoy that, so I'm not getting good vibes from this. And number two, they didn't seem like they were that impressed with me. You know, it didn't seem like I was, a lead contender or something. So impressions can be deceptive, you know. Sometimes they can be bang on, but sometimes they can be deceptive. So yeah, go for your second interview. You know, you never know. Always be open. Sasbuano says they were asking weird questions like, what question would make me feel uncomfortable? You know, as I'm reading that, I'm thinking of like situations where as a boss, I would want to ask that question of somebody that's going to be my subordinate. You know, if you work in customer service, or even if you're like a receptionist or something, you're answering phones, I would want to know the answer to that. You know, if somebody kind of gets a little bit agitated, you know, does that make you feel uncomfortable? Or can you just take it all in your stride? You know, I would want to know something like that, right? Incidentally, if someone asked me that question in a job interview, I would say, well, you know, listen, I'm pretty easygoing for most things. You know, I mean, I suppose if someone really crossed the line and they were asking you about like very sensitive personal matters, I suppose that would make me feel a bit awkward getting into that stuff, especially with someone I don't know. But barring something like that, assuming that they were behaving in a professional way, I'd be able to roll with it. I don't think I'd feel too uncomfortable or get offended or call them on, you know, inappropriate behavior, you know, accuse them of inappropriate. You know, I'd be pretty easygoing about most things. So, you know, I'd say something of that nature. Incidentally, I don't know if that's what you said or how it went. SS says, I was thinking about that approach too, looking at Google Maps. So far, other YouTube channels have not mentioned that. Yeah, because usually that type of activity is done higher up, right? And that's where, like, how can I put this delicately? That's kind of the difference between people up here and people down here, is that people up here, they network, like they're not afraid or unwilling to talk to other people. If you've had bosses in your job, I mean, this isn't universal, obviously, depending on what level you're at and what level your boss is at, but they tend to not always be at their desk working hard. They tend to be out and about. They go to events. They go talk to other managers. They go talk to people outside the organization, you know, that, you know, like as part of their job directly or indirectly, right? And if you're at the executive level, that's a huge part of what people do. Because how do you think companies partner with suppliers, vendors, how they do joint ventures, how you get industrial or institutional customers or clients? It's because you have these very strong relationships between people at the top. And those don't just happen by people sitting in their office, you know what I mean? People go out of their way to go and meet and mingle with organizations and people from those organizations that, that you would have some kind of interaction with, either customers or partners or even competitors, just to see, like, kind of keep your tabs on them, right? And a source of talent for your company may be your competitors. So you want to keep your tabs on, oh, I know that person and they're really good. Oh, they're thinking of leaving. Hey, have they found something yet? Maybe they'll come and work for me. I know they're good. They've been kicking my ass in this business like for 10 years. I'd love them to work for me. I know how good they are. Things like this. So they tend to be more connected, right? You know what I mean? So there you go. No, it's absolutely nothing to do with class. It's to do with function, right? See, imagine if, how can I put this? Imagine if you were a representative of a large organization. Let's say you're thinking of setting up shop in a city. Okay, you're going to open a branch office or a facility in a city. And in order to do that, you would need to connect with several local suppliers, right? So if it was like, I don't know, some kind of manufacturing thing is probably the most obvious. You would have to have, I don't know, local suppliers for certain materials. You would need different services like an accounting company. You're looking for one company to do all your legal stuff, another company to do all your like accounting and finance type stuff. So you're going to need to work with somebody like that, right? So you're going to be putting feelers out. You're going to be contacting companies to see, we might have a lot of business, but I want to try and feel you out, see what you guys do. I'd like to meet everyone. Give me a tour. How big are you? What type of work do you do? What's your general attitude? Are you into this or that? Or where's your particular area of expertise, right? You don't lead by saying, okay, here's a quote, right? We're looking for, it's like a $20 million contract. We're looking for someone to bid on it. You don't do that because you have no idea who you're getting, right? So you'd like to know who are the players, right? So what do? You contact an executive at that company. You don't contact the front desk. You contact an executive, maybe the owner. And you say, you don't say, I'm thinking of doing business with you. You say, I'd like to get together with you to learn more about your organization. Are you free for, for lunch or a drink or something like that? Now, if that owner of that company bites your head off and says, who are you? How did you get my number? What is this about? No, I don't want to meet with you. Do you think that's good for business? No, of course not, right? It's to do with your function, right? You have to take unsolicited queries from the public because there could be a lot of really good business opportunities at the end of them. You're not going to do yourself any favors by being antisocial and refusing to, connect with people, especially if they're reaching out to you, right? And people are not going to say, well, if you do meet with me, there could be a contract in it, because that blows the entire thing. You want to get an accurate view of who they are, and you can't do that once you said, here's what we're thinking of doing, and here's the reward, and dangling that in front of you. It's like a job interview where the recruiter asks you, are you a team player? It's so stupid. Of course you're going to say, yes, I'm totally a team player. The cat's out of the bag. They want you to independently indicate that you're a team player without being asked. It's only then that signal actually matters, right? So it has nothing to do with class. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just to do with your function, right? This is one of the things that introverts have to learn. At least that's my opinion based on my experience, what I had to learn. If you want to sort of be an executive and that you're dealing with networking, and if you don't want to or you're not into it, sorry. You're not in that role. Just that simple. Right? Even if you're a technical manager, right? You're a technical manager, you're running a department of, I don't know, let's take an extreme case, tech, developers. You're some kind of manager of a department that does development, right? One aspect of your job is kind of keeping your finger on the pulse of the industry, right? What are the latest tools? Who's using the latest tools? What's coming down the pike? What isn't out now but might be out in 6 months that you should really tune into and pay attention to and prepare for, right? How do you get that information? Well, partly it's by going to, say, tech industry events like trade shows and things like this, and connecting with the people at different companies that are like creating new tools and new solutions. And, and then also while you're there, you're seeing, here's the person that's creating the tool. Here are their institutional clients that are working with them to use their tool as soon as it comes out, or they're using it in beta or something like that. You get all that information. You can then go up and talk to them, and you can see what they're doing and get all the details, right? So that's networking, like that's a part of it. So you can't just sort of bury your head in the sand and say, I don't talk to anyone outside my company. I just get on with my work at my desk, you can, but then you pay the price, and then, you get driven out of the business. So anyway, but the thing is, the point of, like, why am I saying all this? I got kind of sucked into saying this, but it's relevant. It's relevant if you're a job seeker, because the people who have the power to hire you on the spot are these very same people. You go meet with an executive that's running a department of a software company, right? And you're, say, a developer. You're not way up here. You're kind of down here. You write code or whatever, but you're talking to the person that's in charge of an entire division that writes code. They have a lot of developers and they got project managers, right? And if they wanted to, if they were impressed with you, they have the power to just hire you on the spot. And I've seen that, and I've had students that's happened to them, where I've coached them and I've taught them in class, and they've gone out and that's happened, where the CEO gives the director of HR the student's resume and says, look into this person. That's pretty damn powerful. That's the advantage of learning this stuff, right? And remember what I said earlier about fish where the fish are? Don't go to people that are like powerless to help you. Go to people that can help you. They have the power to help you. If they wanted to hire you, they could do it on the spot, Now, look, do you have to do this? No, but what I'm saying is that this is an avenue for a lot of people, right? And there's absolutely no reason why you can't do this. All you need to do is learn how to be able to have a pleasant conversation with somebody. Now, if that's beyond your capabilities, you might have problems. But if that doesn't sound like it's the hardest thing in the world, and it isn't, and you feel you could do it, especially if somebody gave you some tips, right? Then you can do this. I know this because I've taught this in university, and I've had 21-year-old students go out and do this, meet CEOs of big companies, and then get hired by them, and send me a selfie. This is me shaking the CEO's hand, and then they hired me like 5 minutes after that. It's not about it's I sometimes get a little frustrated when I hear people talking about like elitism and stuff. It's like nothing to do with that. The opportunity is right there for you. It's just that some people are more tuned in, that they realize it is, and then they know what to do. Other people, they don't know the opportunity is there, and then even if they did know it, they wouldn't know how to go about doing it because nobody's telling them, Nobody's giving them step-by-step instructions. Anyway, that's enough for my rant here. I've effectively shut down the chat anyway. There are 29 people here. Thank you for being here. It is Valentine's Day. I hope you're doing fine. Like we said at the beginning, if, you are between jobs, that's normal, that's natural, that happens. If you're also, I kind of tongue-in-cheek called this episode Alone with No Job on Valentine's Day. So if you're also like, single or whatever, and you don't want to be single, as far as I know about these things, it's exactly the same problem. It's about connecting to people. You have to discover the people, you have to figure out how to communicate with them, and then you have to know what to communicate. And if you can do those two things, good things tend to follow. SS is great. And Wudan Short says hi. Hello to Wudan. I thought that said Wuhan for a second. But it's not, it's Wu Dan. So there you go. Yeah, if you have a question, if you are wondering something, get in the chat. Let me know what you're wondering about, what you're struggling with, and I'll try and help you. I got kind of sucked into going off on a big tangent, a big rant about networking and stuff, but but there you go. Don't take anyone's word for anything. Go out and try it. Experience is the best teacher, and it's just a strange problem. It's like, how do you convince someone that this other kind of world exists if they've never seen it? Maybe they go and talk to a bunch of people that have also never seen it. So they ask, does that exist? And these people say, no, it doesn't. I've never seen that. Does that mean it doesn't? No, it just means that, you're still separated from it. Amaze says, hi, Bill, what's the best way of negotiating salary, maybe slightly above the range discussed during the early interview stage? Okay, once again, another huge topic. And because I'm an introvert and a technical introvert, I tend to get lost in details, because details matter. For a start, not every job, there's not always leeway to negotiate salary. A lot of times there is. They are flexible and they can go higher. But that doesn't mean that universally they can always go higher. Okay, so just be aware of that. Okay, if you're saying what's the best way of negotiating to get more, it may not be possible in all situations. There are some general indicators whether that's the case or not. Okay, one indicator would be if you have a job where it's unique to you, it's a unique position, and only you are in that job at that organization. Generally, that means that you can negotiate. There's room to go upwards, okay? Remember, these are not ironclad rules. They're just sort of like we're playing the odds. Generally, in most cases, you can go higher. If, on the other hand, it's a job where, say, you take a job where you're one of 50 people all working together and you all have the same title and you're all in the same role, generally speaking, you probably can't negotiate higher salary on that role, because if they were to give you extra money than all your peers, it wouldn't be fair. As soon as word gets out about that, then they're going to be inundated with all the peers saying, hey, if you paid him more, you got to pay us more too, or else it's not fair, right? There's that, right? Another indicator is if you take the amount of profit that the organization makes. It's like a ratio, their amount of revenue they make and the amount of it that's profit. If you take that and you divide it by the number of employees that generate that profit, so you get like profit generated per employee on average, right? If that's a high number, then they can usually go a lot higher. If it's a low number, then they usually can't. So anyway, that's the thing to start off with. Some general rules, just to really summarize this. You never negotiate until you get an offer. Okay? Until you get an offer, your strategy is to just not discuss compensation. So every attempt they might make, if they do make an attempt to discuss compensation with you, you deflect it. They say, give us a number. What do you want? You say, well, I can't really give you a number. Something like that. It's too soon to be. I would need to know a bunch of things. It's like, that kind of thing. So you deflect it until they've decided on you and they pick you, right? If you're at that stage where they've given you an offer, okay, usually the way it works is at least the illusion of give and take. So you have to, in order for them to give you something, what's usually expected is that you will give them something, right? So if you just say the offer's great, but I need this, and this, and you don't get anything that you want, usually people won't want to work with you on that. They won't want to, give you all your requests. And then negotiation is based on options. So if you don't have any alternative than to take this job, you can't really demand anything. And it might actually be overly risky for you, depending on your situation, to try and push for more money. You should just maybe take it when you have an offer, rather than risk, them rescinding the offer, saying, nope, absolutely not, no dice. Obviously you would not be happy with this job if you're demanding that kind of money. So our offer is now rescinded. Like if you have no alternative other than unemployment and you're desperate for money, you might not want to try and negotiate. So, if on the other hand, you've got 2 other job offers in your hand, you got 3 interviews lined up for next week, you could like demand a pretty steep thing, because if they say no, you have alternatives, right? That's about as detailed as I can make it in like a couple of minutes. Hopefully that makes sense. As always, like the full meal deal is here if you're wanting that. Barrett Sharma says, should one just walk into offices of great organizations, say New York, and ask for hiring managers' info? You can, if you want. I wouldn't recommend that for most people, but if you know what you're doing and you're good with people, you can. Like, for example, I think I mentioned this like last week. I was watching a documentary on Monty Python, the British comedy show. It was like 6 people that came together to create that, right? Anyway, one guy was from Minnesota, Terry Gilliam. He became a big Hollywood director. So he was in Minnesota. That's where he grew up. He was in the University of Minnesota. His idol was the people who did Mad Magazine. I don't know if you guys remember that. If you're old like me, you remember it. It was like a comic magazine. It was jokes and things. And so what he did, because he was kind of a smart guy, he actually just went to New York, walked through the front door of Mad Magazine, and did precisely that, and said, like, I'd like to talk to the editor, of Mad Magazine. And they said, sure. Yeah, he's actually in the office. Would you like to go up? And he's like, okay. So he sat down with the editor. They had an informational interview, right? And then at the end of that meeting, Terry Gilliam was working for Mad Magazine. So he calls his buddies back up in Minneapolis, like that were in his university, working on the university publication, whatever they were doing, and said, I'm working for Mad Magazine now, right? So you can do that. I mean, and I've done stuff where you apply in person and all this kind of stuff, so you can do it, but you'd have to be comfortable doing that. Or if you want to be comfortable doing it, there's no reason why you can't. You just learn the protocol. You go up to the front counter and you say, hi, would I be able to talk to the CEO, or whatever. Now, 90% chance or more, they're going to say, no, they're not available. You say, okay, no problem. That's fine. Can I leave this for the CEO? If I leave this with you, this envelope or this, packet of papers, like my resume or whatever, can you see that they get it? Would that be okay? And they and 90% of the time they'll say, sure, yeah. So like, okay, great, thank you very much. So, if you could ask them like, okay, what's their name? Do you have their card or anything like that? Sometimes they'll give that to you. Sometimes they won't have it. But you go away and then you have a reason to call the CEO and follow up. Say, hi, yeah, I'm just calling. My name is X, and I'm calling to see if you received the package or the papers the envelope I left for you at the front desk. Have you gotten that yet? And they might say yes or no. And it's like, okay, well, if they got it, great. Listen, if ever you're looking, it's for someone that can do this, that, really kicks ass at this and solves this problem. I'd love to work for you guys. So if ever you're looking, just keep that in mind. That's all I want to say. Thank you. Have a great day. Something like that, right? And if they are looking, if they're not looking, it's academic. There's no job. But if they are looking, they're probably going to go, hey, it's like, yeah, we might have something. And, they're impressed by your professionalism and by your initiative. And it's the best demonstration of being genuinely interested in that organization. And let's face it, that's what hiring managers are looking for, someone who wants that job. So here you go. That was a direct demonstration. You're not having to talk about how you're interested. You've just shown you are, So yeah, you could totally do that. And I've done stuff like that, and it's similar. I haven't been to New York City to do it, but I've done that kind of thing. You don't have to annoy anyone. You don't have to get in anyone's face. You don't have to force yourself on anyone. That's all things that people imagine it would be like who have never done it. But that's not how you do it. In fact, that if you tried any of that stuff, it would really count against you. Andy says, I'm a business owner for more than 20 years and I'm contemplating winding down the business and seeking employment. How do I position myself when I seek employment without being viewed as a failure? Networking. Because it's going to be like, listen, everything happens some of the time, so you never know what's possible. But the general rule is that it's very hard to position yourself as, a sort of business owner, entrepreneur, manager type that is going to take a step down and going to try and get a regular day job as a worker. You know what I mean? It's very challenging to convince people that that's genuine and there's nothing wrong with you, right? Meaning that you're not desperate. Everything that you've said on your resume is not a fabrication. You know what I mean? Like it's rare. They're always assuming, if you're going through a recruiter, they're always assuming that there's some catch. Either you falsified the whole bit about being in business for yourself, or you falsified the fact that like that's how you made your living for many years, or they're just assuming that there's something wrong with you, because that's not a natural step. Usually people go up, not down, right? So they tend to be very suspicious of that. So the obvious way to do it is you don't go through recruiters who don't know your business. The other thing is that they don't know your business. So that can work out. It can be very negative, because if you name drop companies like that everyone's heard of, then they go, okay, I now see you as someone valuable. If you say you've been in business for yourself for 20 years and the name of your company was Bill Todd Enterprises or something, and they've never heard of that, they wonder if that's all a fabrication. They wonder if that entire story is bogus. They have no way of knowing. So you become a high-risk employee to them. The other thing, obviously, is that if you've done your own business, the general rule is that if you have the opportunity to do your own business in the future successfully, you will always choose that over working for these people as an employee. Because even though the money might be the same, you're going to want to work for yourself rather than work for them. Because everyone wants to be their own boss. It's a lot easier when you're the boss than having a boss, right? So you're struggling against these principles too, right? So you do it through networking. Go to people that were clients of yours, partners of yours, suppliers of yours, regulators of yours, competitors of yours, other people in the business environment that they're aware of you. So when you name drop your company, they go, yeah, okay. Oh, you're the guy behind that. Oh, right on. And it's regarded as a good thing, not this thing where the recruiter hears their business name and goes, okay, did you just make that up? Like I've never heard of that. That doesn't impress me. You know what I mean? So that's where I would look first. Okay, I would definitely go the networking route. Once you've been the company owner, that's usually your graduation to all your opportunities coming through networking, as a very general rule. Hopefully that makes sense, Andy, but great question. Someone says, I want to start a consultancy company. What's the first step? If you don't know that, you've got some work to do. Consulting is based on you being an expert in something, whereas the client who has money isn't, right? Now, if you don't know the first thing to do in that business, it's weird because you're positioning yourself as an expert in that business. You know what I'm saying? So what you need to do is you need to get inside of a consulting company. That would probably be your best bet. It won't teach you everything, but it will teach you certainly like how it's done. Okay. What it won't teach you is it won't teach you where that firm's reputation comes from. Why do people come to them? Now, you can guess why that is, and you can sort of assume you know the answer to it, but you never really know. So if you just go out on your own and then copy their processes, thinking that, the clients will follow, it doesn't necessarily work like that. Usually, consultancy at the very top, it's based on relationships. It's based on the fact that I trust that you know more than me. And I'm willing to take your advice over top of what I think I should do. You know, that requires a lot of trust, right? Even if you're just helping with details down at the low level, you're consulting on like, you know, construction or something, you know, interior design, you know, like whatever it is, even like details down at the bottom, it's still based on the fact that like, oh, that company knows their stuff. So we go to them. So you have a reputation. Okay, it's not as simple as like, oh, I know the subject matter, so therefore I can be a consultant. Okay, it would be nice if that was true, but unfortunately, the thing that makes the clients want your advice, want to choose you over other larger competitors that have been in the game longer, they've heard of them, and they've got like 500 employees, whereas you're just a single person. You would have to have a very, very compelling reason why they'd pick you over them, right? So you need to get answers to some of those questions. Learn how to do informational interviews. You could talk to people in the business. I can give you some of the information. Get on the inside of a large consulting company, like one of your competitors. See how they do things. That will help you with the operations of what to do. You know what I mean? But that's where you're going to find most of the answers. SS, New York usually very upfront in their answers or interested if they can hang with you as soon as you speak up. Okay? That was not my impression of New York, by the way. I mean, hey, like, you know, I could be completely wrong. All I know is that I dealt with some construction companies in New York back in the day, and that's not what they were like. They were gruff, they were demanding, they were really sort of direct. You know, kind of what you would think of like New York, you know, just as like a thing, like New York, you know. Is it a nice, soft, easy, laid back kind of place? No. It's full of a lot of tough talking, tough, hardworking, direct people, you know. And that was, and my opinion was reinforced when I had to connect with some companies and stuff there. You're welcome, Barrett Sharma. Best of luck to you. Budween says, if the owner looks interested during the interview and says the HR will contact you, how long should I wait for an offer or rejection, and should I ask about the status of my application? Who cares? It doesn't matter. Listen, you have no control over it. If they call you, great. I hope they do. And good things will hopefully happen, right? If they don't, hey, you got no control over it. You know what I mean? It just so happened that, you know, they had a particular affinity for candidates that wore tutus. And you walked in, you had your suit, you had your dress shoes, you had no tutu, right? You know, oh, you talked a good game, but, you know, it's all talk. There's no tutu, right? So they're not interested, right? Now, should you worry about this? Should it form your opinion of yourself and your value? Absolutely not. These people could be completely out to lunch. You know, maybe what they were looking for, their idea of a great candidate, was a 2020 psychopath. You know, someone that could fire people and, you know, without blinking an eye and not feel a thing. You know, that's what they're looking for. And I'm sorry, Budween, but you just don't measure up. You know, should you worry about this? Should you wait by the phone? And should you be disappointed when it doesn't ring from these people calling you? No. Listen, you keep looking forward, move on, and think about your next opportunity. Work on getting that next interview. Work on connecting to more employers, okay? And doing all your networking type stuff, which hopefully you're taking steps into that world. Don't stop and look back and just sit by the phone waiting for it to ring and get annoyed when it doesn't. That is not helpful, nor is it productive. Okay? So I know you're just asking. I don't mean to beat up on you, but I'm just saying, don't think like that. Always be looking forward. There's no such thing as like, you know, the right amount of time to wait. You know, should I follow up? Listen, if it's a job you want, if it's a really good, attractive looking job, maybe follow up once, maybe twice if you really want to, but beyond that, that's it. Unless it's like a really, really desirable job, personally, I wouldn't work on following up, because that's taking your time away from pursuing new opportunities. And if you have to choose between following up on things you've already applied for or applying to something new and doing a good job of making a great application or reaching out in a very good way, I would choose that activity over spending your time following up all the time. Okay? So that's what I have to say about that. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't mean to be hard on you. I want the best thing for you, okay? And I also want you to be in the best possible mental health while you're going through your job search, right? And always looking back and wondering why they're not calling me, That's not going to contribute. What will make you feel better is when you discover, here's a new opportunity that I can apply for. And I just applied for it. I've got that much more chances of getting a good job, right? When you're looking forward, that'll make you feel better about the whole thing too, as well as being more productive. Barrett Sharma says, just curious, what was the very latest document that you printed using the one in the background? Oh, you mean that thing? Oh yeah, it's got a layer of dust on. I mean, I print something out, I think maybe once a week, and I scan something once every 3 days, maybe, something like that. You know, you didn't ask me about that thing. That's a shredder. I actually use that far more, ironically. But yeah, that's been in the shot for years, like since I started this YouTube channel. I've just sat here in my office and and you know why it's been there? Because it works, because it's never messed up. It's a brother. It's not HP. It's not anything like that. I used to have like a long line of like HP printers, ink jets, bubble jets, and they were crap. They'd like last, a year if you were lucky, and then they'd break. And during that time, you'd be wrestling with it. This thing, I got this. I actually got another one, a smaller version of that, at a job I worked at like in 2010 or something like that, like a while ago. And I used it to scan something like I don't know, it must have been like 5,000 pages or something of like files and stuff. And I digitized everything so I could like process it on the computer rather than just always be sorting through filing cabinets. And I don't recall it ever screwing up. It kicked ass. And based on that, for my later office, I got a bigger version of it that can do like ledger size. So anyway, that's the soap opera behind that. Really, really exciting stuff. I'm sure you were dying to know all of that. Yeah, so thank you for asking. No one, I don't recall anyone ever asking about that before. What's the best consulting group to get a wide exposure? I don't know, like find out in your industry, in your country, wherever you are, what that is. Get on LinkedIn, get on Google Maps and see what's out there, Go talk to people, I don't know specific details of every industry in every country. I don't even know where you're from. I don't even know how to say your name. So, you know what I mean? Like, learn how to get answers. And I talked earlier in this stream today about like how to get answers to absolutely anything. Go replay that if that helps you. Learn how to get answers to any questions like this that you could ever encounter. It's by informational interviews with people in your industry that know. Andy says, thank you so much, sir. Another problem is I have a feeling that the employer may view me as trying to do some corporate espionage and stuff. Listen, some people are just paranoid and you can't help that. You can't control that. You come in and they ask you something and they go, why are you asking that? Is that because you're trying to spy on us? It's like, you have no control over this stuff. You asked a perfectly normal question. You know what I mean? Some people in some organizations are absolutely paranoid. I've met these people. They're just paranoid. They're like afraid. You say like, oh, thank you for that invoice, or whatever, or for doing business with us. Can you send me a copy of the invoice or the contract or something? And they go, why'd you need that? We don't give that out, And it's like, it's okay. It's okay. Just chill, It's all right, I was just wondering. I just wanted to reread it just to see, exactly what your terms were or something. It's no big deal, But yeah, I've met people like that. Usually it's a sign of a bad organization. Their culture is terrible, People are like constantly afraid for their job. They're constantly afraid of like getting in trouble for things that, they might get in trouble for things that like it's not their fault or it's just random. So it causes them to become paranoid, So you have no control over that. Don't worry about it. You're going to encounter some weird people doing this. Just chalk it up to like, oh, that's my weird person for this month, And then do the best you can. Andy says, anyway, appreciate your advice to try to gain access via networking to people I know. Yeah, listen, like usually when people climb the ladder, you get to a point where this is how you operate, right? And there's a reason why you operate that. There's legitimate reasons for this. Like, let me put it this way. Do job interviews really reveal who a candidate is? Of course not. It's a joke. They don't know really anything about it. You could have falsified everything you said and gotten past them. It's not that hard. They don't really take a good look at you. They don't really know who it is. And the reason why that's allowed is because, quite frankly, a lot of workers, who cares? It's like, yeah, occasionally you hire a bad one, but you just like, oh, well, you just chalk it up to experience. Let's get rid of them and let's replace them with someone else. And chances are the next person will work. And then you forget all about it. Like, no offense, but that's how it's done. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just pointing this out. Isn't that how organizations are behaving from what you guys see? They don't really know who you are, nor do they really care. It's like, well, we'll give you a shot. We've covered basic stuff. You're not like an axe murderer and you haven't like, snapped like a twig and, committed violence during the job interview. So, I mean, the obvious stuff is kind of, good. So we'll give you a shot. Come on in, and keeping in mind that, if we hire you and at any moment you turn into be like a completely different person and you can't do the job, we always can just fire you and just replace you, that's how they regard it. It's a little bit different with executives. If you hire an executive because you're going to put them in charge of this entire division of a company or something, this entire organization filled with like assets and, maybe 1,000 people, and you've got someone that is bad. Their judgment is completely out to lunch. You don't know who they were. You thought that they led companies. It turns out they didn't, right? And so after 6 months on the job, they've managed to alienate all your best customers, and they've cut the profits of that division in half. And they've driven away all your talent because they can't stand this person, right? That's bad. That's really bad. Like, this is not a matter of like, oh, we hired the wrong person. I'll just get rid of them and hire someone else. No, this is a whole other thing. We might have flushed the entire company down the toilet, So you have to be more sure of those people at a higher level. They have much more responsibility, much more ability to screw things up, So that's why their hiring practices are different for people at that level, That's why they don't make them talk to a 21-year-old recruiter that's never done anything and doesn't know anything about anything, as a way of vetting them. That's just the reality. So as soon as you can jump to that system of networking where you talk to hiring managers rather than recruiters, and it's a bit more organic, it's a bit more about going around things rather than following hiring procedures, the better. It shows that, now you're more important. Now you have more of an impact on an organization, right? You're climbing the ladder. It's more, there's more at stake, right? Which is good. It means you're more important, you're more valuable, you can contribute more, and therefore they have to get it right. They have to really know you when they hire you, So, in my opinion, it should be everybody's goal to try and leave the world of job applications and recruiters and posted jobs and cover letters and how to answer, tell me about yourself. You need to leave that world behind, the sooner the better, and learn how to do informational interviews and how to reach out to organizations and how to talk to executives, how to, do an informational interview with an executive, how to get it, right? That's where the real opportunities are. And that's the kind of activity you would have to do if you want these people to hire you for like much more important positions higher up. Anyway, I end up going on all these tangents. I apologize for that. There's 25 people here. Thank you for being here. I am just going to sort of wrap this up, and then I have to get rolling in about 5 minutes. So let's see here. Amazed. Okay, I think I answered amazed. No, this is new. It would be great to know how often offers are rescinded, especially when the conversations were great and the candidate is very likable. Well, typically they're not rescinded unless there's a very good reason, right? Like, it's very easy to get your offer rescinded. Just go in there and demand twice the amount of money. You know what I mean? Like, it's really not a big deal. Now, assuming you didn't do that, you probably won't experience getting an offer rescinded. It may happen. Companies sometimes are out to lunch and they think they're hiring, but then it turns out their budget just evaporates all of a sudden and they can't hire. Like, it's happened, okay? But it's not typical, nor is it common. So, you know what I mean? But if you really play hardball with them, you can easily make it happen, Sounds may childish or pointless. I want to be a billionaire. What's the best advice you can give? Well, listen, I'm not a billionaire, so I don't know why you would take my advice on that. I think the only people that could potentially give advice would be billionaires themselves. I have met one billionaire in my life. I did a job interview with one billionaire. And I wasn't that impressed, but that was just one person. Because they're not normal. At least the person I met, they're not normal. Buteween says, haha, well, another company wants me to onboard now, same pay, wrong industry, and I think they are losing patience when I wait for this other company. Oh yeah, like if you're engaged in like a hiring process with them and you're kind of stalling because you're also, pursuing another opportunity over here and you want to see how this one turns out before you make a decision on this one, yeah, that's understandable. They're not going to be into that. And my advice is, you like beyond 2 days or something, usually you can't make people wait. When they decide they want to hire you, they want to hire you now. Okay, they don't want to wait. They don't want you to go off and think about it. They want a decision like within 48 hours. Something like that. Like maybe there's a bit of give and take there, but like you can't wait like a week or more usually for most things. So my advice to you would be just take it. Forget about this one for the moment. Just take this. And then after you've accepted this one, okay, if this one is still something that might happen, pursue it. And then if this second opportunity ends up being, like it ends up bearing fruit and they're also making you an offer, then you can decide like, okay, is this offer, does it make sense to take this over the position I just accepted, right? You could even go back to the position you just accepted and say, I know I just signed an employment contract with you. However, on further reflection, it turns out that due to my situation, I'm going to need this. Now, can you accommodate that? And if they say no, you say, oh, okay, I'm sorry to hear that because I really wanted this to work out. But unfortunately, I have no choice now but to give you my notice, right? And then you take the second opportunity. You keep your options open, you know? And the more options you have, the better. So don't make one company wait until you hear about a second one, you know? Be more than like a day or two, you know what I mean? That's kind of the general rule I would recommend. Yeah, like go through the whole onboarding process with them. I mean, who cares? You know, in the end, you have to do what's right for you. So accept it if it's offered. And then if something else comes along in the meantime, you're open to that. And then you decide, you know. Barrett Sharma says, could you please share some characteristics that you would have identified over time about great organizations? I did a video on this channel. It's called, it's something to do with external signs of good companies. You know, but like, it doesn't matter what the company is like overall. It could be like a bad company, it could be failing, but if you had a good experience with it, that's all that matters, you know? Maybe you know a couple of people there, you have a couple of bosses that think highly of you and they take care of you and they give you opportunities. But, you know, outside of those two people, the company at large could be not great, not a great place to work, you know? It really doesn't matter, you know? You have to look at every opportunity on its own merits. You know what I mean? You know, I think you could probably guess all the stuff I would say if I had to list, you know, like they care about their workers, they actually promote based on merit, they train you, they treat you in a reasonable way, you know, things like this. Personally, I don't like heavily unionized environments. I've worked in heavily unionized environments and I hate it. I had bad experiences. I saw awful management come together with totally ridiculous, unreasonable unions, and they all smashed together. And my personal experiences with that were really bad because I was right where they did this. I was right at the contact point. I was a frontline manager, and I saw both sides acting like morons constantly. And all it did is it made the company less competitive because they were engaged in this kind of crap rather than focusing on doing what they did really well, you know. And the problem is you've got, in that industry, you had people that were just not trained. They were not educated. So you had managers that did not know how to manage people. And you had workers that were like living in their own sheltered little bubble that knew nothing about the situation that the organization was in, having to be competitive and all this kind of stuff. So as a result, like it just resulted in stupidity and failure. You know what I mean? So people that are tuned in, people that are reasonable at all levels, you know, and that applies to workers. When workers see something they don't like, they just say, oh, well, management are morons. And that's their justification of everything that they see that isn't ideal. Why is that like that? Oh, well, it's because the management are morons. Why don't we do this when that seems like it would make sense? Oh, well, it's quite simple. You see, the management are morons, right? It's like, no. It's very easy to say that until you're in the driving seat. You think it's so easy? You try it. You see how people totally abuse the privilege and how they goof off and how they don't have any kind of loyalty or any kind of proper attitude to what you would expect. And then see what you are forced to do because you're confronted with people that just don't want to act reasonably. You know what I mean? It's all so easy until you have to do it yourself. Most people don't learn that till they're older, when they're given the chance, and then they see, it's not as idealistic as I thought it was. You know, at least that's been my experience. You know, you'd love to treat everyone really well, but when you get a whole bunch of people that are a bunch of jackasses and they just want to take everything they can and not give a thing back, you know, it's hard to be this benevolent, reasonable person all the time. You know, you have to be more practical. And that's why I say you have to be able to promote and reward based on merit. So the ones that do act in a reasonable way, they get rewarded. They don't get ground into the dirt. They get rewarded. But the ones that continually abuse everything and they do a terrible job and they're very, entitled, they should not reap the rewards because that behavior of theirs is not helping. What you'd like in an ideal world would be to be able to try and educate people, to try and train them and say, this is the reality and this is what you should do, And if people just refuse to do that, you know what I mean? There's two sides to all this stuff, and then that's what makes it complicated. So it's hard to look at a place from the outside and really, beyond the basics and really determine like how it works on the inside. SS says, I just found an employer 10 minutes away from me on Google Maps. I feel so silly now. Don't feel silly, SS. You're awesome. You're doing great. If you learned a new tool to use that can help, great, Anyway, listen, you guys are awesome. Happy Valentine's Day. Listen, if you are between jobs, if you are having issues with this kind of stuff, it's all an illusion. It tends to look much more pessimistic than it actually is. You're going to be fine. Do some self-improvement. Take this opportunity to learn new things. Be open-minded. You know what I mean? I had made some notes for myself. I wanted to say if I'm going to leave you with a principle, it would be fish where the fish are. If you're looking for a job, look at where they're actually hiring. Not where you'd like them to be hiring, but where they are actually hiring. And if you don't know where that is, that's a great thing to try and get an answer to, right? Okay? People like friendly, happy, easygoing people. So if you're going to do job interviews or you're going to do informational interviews or any kind of connection with other people, remember that. Be friendly, be happy, even though you don't feel like it. You probably want to practically go kill yourself, if you're between jobs, but come across as friendly, happy, easygoing, accommodating, and that'll be the single biggest thing that will open doors for you. Beyond any answer you give in a job interview, if you just look like someone that they want to work with, and that wouldn't be a downer to work with that person, that'll do you more good than getting some of the questions right. Hopefully that makes sense. If you want to go deeper with me or my stuff, check out these courses. This is probably the main one that most people would probably be interested in, how to get hired, including a lot of the stuff we talked about today with networking and stuff like that. Step-by-step process, all the principles with templates and that kind of stuff. And also I talk about how to apply for posted jobs too. That's a part of it. So check that out. Link in the description. Do that if you want to learn business, make yourself more valuable to your employer. And if you are interested in looking at learning more advanced communication skills, check out that course. Okay, that's where I put a lot of my learning for stuff I had to learn being an executive and climbing that ladder. And you have to tack on a bunch of things. You got to tack on how to manage money. You got to tack on how to manage people. You got to tack on how to communicate at a very high level. That's the communication component. So if you're interested in that, check out that course. Link in the description box under this live stream. Thank you for being here. I wish you nothing but the best, and I will be back on Monday. So take care of yourselves. Have yourself a great weekend. Go do something fun. It's Valentine's Day. Go do something fun. Even if you feel this tall, force yourself. Get some good food. Put on a sweater or something. Feel warm. Go watch your favorite TV show or play your favorite video game. Whatever it is that makes you feel good on a fundamental level, go and do that. Take care of yourself. And then you'll be better equipped to get back in the rat race Monday or whenever you resume. Okay? See you guys. Take care. I'll see you soon.